Okay, so why do I think the prison industrial complex should be dismantled? I guess one reason would be that a primary reason is it's ineffective, and all it does is encourage and create repression of marginalized communities. Another issue is that it's encouraging the spread of repressive policies that have now entered the school system. So now there's an incentive for school administrators and even educators to push out students who are deemed to be low performing or to be problem students into the criminal justice system. And what you see is what has been described as the school to prison pipeline, where you have students being criminalized for activity that's typically been described as, minor schoolyard misbehavior, and what you have is students, maybe getting into a fight, that being described as assault, and then becoming arrested and having records that, later lead to them entering the criminal justice system as adults. And the problem with the prison industrial complex in relation to that is that because there's an economic incentive to create more prisons, there's incentive to criminalize more students, and there's also an incentive for school districts to also use some of these private corporations that are creating these prisons as means to educate these students in, say, alternative education schools or through different juvenile detention centers. So you have more students being pushed out of schools and being placed into prisons, in large part because of the prison industrial complex. Another reason why it should be dismantled is, it's economically inefficient. It costs less to invest in rehabilitation and education as opposed to the incarceration of individuals. It costs about $25,000 or so to incarcerate one individual for 1 year, and that's that's the same. It's much less to educate a person or to rehabilitate them. But let's say if you wanted to actually give people, economic means or finances, you could actually support an individual with $25,000 a year as opposed to keeping them incarcerated for that amount of time. And the issue that you have once people are released from prison, they've been exposed to a certain type of conditions, a certain environment. So where you have individuals going into prison a certain way and coming out worse, and that's where you have increased recidivism, and there's no real means for them to reintegrate themselves into society, not to mention all the collateral consequences of people being incarcerated, not being able to vote in many states, or having a lot of restrictions in voting, restrictions in their ability to access education, whether they're entering the criminal justice system as minors and having difficulties reintegrating, going back into normal schools and mainstream education, or trying to access certain federal grants or loans, which they're banned from accessing because they have drug convictions, or other sorts of barriers to their education after spending that amount of time in prison. How much more time do I have?
You used about 4 minutes.
Okay, I'm done.